just a second. Are there any commissioners that have called in on a phone line? I see several commissioners on the WebEx. Adel, Anderson, Clark, and Lester. Is there any other commissioner remote? Okay, go ahead.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm calling to order this special meeting of the Strategic Planning Committee on this Wednesday, September 4th at 5:01. Do we have any members of the public here or online with comments relative to agenda items? I see Judy making her way to the podium.
Judy Allen, West Hartford. I guess a couple questions and suggestions. The vision statements, do they have to be all one sentence? Because some of it doesn't flow well for me anyway. And I also would suggest under integrity, that's a word change, never. Number 8, replace tolerance with acceptance. No, I can't find it. There's also a place where it talks about driving progress in member towns or for its customers, something like that. And I would suggest changing the drive to support, so it's clear that it's the community making the decisions and the MDC is supporting them. Thanks.
Thank you, Judy. Do we have any other members of the public with comments relative to the agenda? If you're online, if you could raise your hand or unmute yourself. Last call for public comments. Hearing none. I'd like to move to the minutes, which were circulated from our July 17th meeting for our review and consideration for adoption tonight. Can I have a motion?
I move it. Second.
Thank you. Does anyone have any comments, edits, changes, suggestions for the minutes? Any changes whatsoever? Hearing none. All those in favor of adopting the minutes as drafted signify by saying aye.
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 Those opposed? Any abstentions? Hearing none, motion carries. Okay. So at our last meeting, we started to discuss the current mission statement and core values that the district has had at least since our last strategic planning session. We started the conversation and decided we had two options. We could either continue to use the current statement and core values as is to guide us through this new strategic planning process, or we could consider making revisions and take the time to do a bit of a refresh. So at Chairman Curry's suggestion, I took into account the feedback that was shared at our last meeting and some feedback that I received since the meeting to do a side-by-side comparison for this group to consider as we move forward. So I'd like to start with the mission statement, which I'll read it, is the mission of the MDC is to provide our customers with safe, pure drinking water, environmentally protective wastewater collection and treatment, and other services that benefit the member towns. Taking into account the feedback that was shared at the last meeting, the proposed revisions to the mission statement would read, the mission of the MDC is to provide our customers with safe, pure drinking water, environmentally protective wastewater collection and treatment, and other services that benefit those we serve. Earlier today, I did have the opportunity to connect with District Council, Commissioner Patel, you made that great suggestion. And after speaking with him, I'm going to tweak the language very modestly to read, "The mission of the MDC is to provide our customers and those we serve bless you, with safe, pure drinking water, environmentally protective wastewater collection and treatment, and other services, period." So the only change to what is before you that I believe Victoria also put in open text is we are striking that benefit and moving those we serve up to follow the word customers and those we serve. And with that, I will invite input, comments, observations, suggestions, anyone on the line or in the room? Anyone on the line or? If you are on the line, if you want to share input, please raise your hand and we will recognize you. Commissioner Stuber.
Yes, thank you. I like the way that this is phrased. I think it's a good mission statement and a good revision from what we had previously. One thing that does occur to me is that, we've been doing a great deal of work here at the MDC to not only work on, but also to accelerate sewer separation efforts in the city of Hartford and to mitigate some of the stormwater issues that we've seen in the community there. And so I wonder if there might be a way to, kind of reference that important ongoing work in the mission statement as well. I think the wastewater collection is a good phrase, but maybe doesn't quite encompass all of the sewer services and work that we're providing. So I just kind of offer that as a comment for anyone's feedback or any suggestions they might have in that regard.
Okay, Commissioner Manday.
Yes, thanks, Madam Chair. I agree with Commissioner Stuber, but I would like to propose keeping the mission statement as revised that we just saw and maybe adding some of that to our core values, because I think it would fit better in that area rather than in the mission statement area.
Commissioner Bush.
I just have one little grammatical thing. I think we should add a comma after the word treatment. Wastewater collection and treatment, comma, and other services.
I will do that. There's a big debate in the English-speaking world about
If I could reply to that,
The Oxford
Mr. Chairman. I was on the other side of that argument until it was clearly pointed out to me by a group of English teachers why the comma is important. So it is the right way to do it, I think.
Thank you, Commissioner.
All right.
Commissioner Curry.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Commissioner Curry. While I can share a concern with Commissioner Stuber, our core values haven't really changed from 1929 to today, and that's provide good, clean drinking water and wastewater treatment and sewer treatment. Stormwater is different in Hartford from it is from other towns. And stormwater is not one of our core functions, although we spend a great deal of time, a great deal of money, and our towns are spending a great deal of money in their ad valorem fees because of stormwater throughout the district. But I don't believe it belongs in our mission statement or in our core values. I would prefer if Commissioner Stuber would like to have that conversation, that we could have it at a district level, at the district board meeting.
Thank you. Anyone else? Anyone online?
I would just say, Madam Chairwoman, that I appreciate the good chairman's comments, and I do recognize that the that the ongoing work and, obligations of the MDC with respect to stormwater in Hartford are, markedly different from our obligations in other towns. And so I can appreciate how that's a difficult nuance perhaps to convey inside of a one sentence mission statement. I do think that the mission does reference other services. So I think that I appreciate the points that Chairman made. And so I suppose I'll just leave it at that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else online have comments on the mission statement? So at this point, do I ask for a motion to consider? I should have mentioned, I think we talked about this at our last meeting, but if we choose to continue to rely on the mission statement that has been in existence since at least the last time we did our strategic planning, we don't have to take any action to continue to rely on it as is. However, if we do decide to embrace the changes that have been proposed, at that point, I think we do need a motion, you can correct me if I'm wrong, to decide whether we want to adopt the modifications, and if so, make a motion to present those proposed edits to the entire district board.
Madam Chair, I'd like to make that motion with the revisions that we see here today and with a comma.
Thank you. Any second?
Second.
Thank you. Although, yes.
Just to be sure I'm clear,
Yes.
it's the proposed version that we're looking at along with a comma. What was discussed tonight.
I think it's what was discussed, meaning the change that came from my conversation with district council. Am I correct? Is that what?
I'm proposing the one that I received on this piece of paper plus a comma.
Okay. So what?
This document.
Oh, that document.
This one.
Okay, the one that's in
Yes.
open text. Okay,
Yeah.
with the comma.
Thank you.
Yes. So all those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries. Thank you. Thank you, everyone. So now I'd like to move on to the core values. I tried to present the existing, like a side-by-side chart, and present the existing core values in the left-hand column and the proposed edits in the right-hand column. You'll notice that back when these were drafted, we had 9 specific core values that were articulated. In the revision process, we did collapse 2 of the existing core values into a single, more fulsome core value relating to our workforce, and I'll walk you through all of that when we get to it. I'm going to start at the beginning. Our first current core value values excellent, reliable customer services. We are proposing casting our net a little more broadly than that reads today and calling this, we value excellence in quality and customer service. And we do that by fostering public trust through quality products and services reliably delivered with skill, respect, efficiency, and courtesy. With that, I invite comments and input into this first core value. Okay. Okay. So I should go back and point out that we have redacted the products and services because most of what we are offering, in fact, are services. although you could argue that water is a product. But it's only the product we're delivering through services. So I think if I can reread that, it will read excellence in quality and customer service, fostering public trust through quality services delivered with professional skill, respect, efficiency, and courtesy. Pretty much everything you want in a service company and in getting quality customer services.
Already did.
Now I'll invite input.
Just for
Yes.
clarification, the on the computer, on the email that we got, the language is different than in the writing that we got. And also what you read first was different than the language in here. So I'm just confused as to what language exactly I'm looking at. If there's,
Use the piece of paper.
it was different. She read
Yeah,
it
but
was,
she read, the one that she read was on the piece of paper, the second.
no. She read
Actually,
it
it's off of
differently.
this one. Well, or that one, but.
No.
Which one?
I'm sorry, I apologize. But the words that you read were different than the words that are written on this piece of paper.
This is John Myrtle. So there was a version sent out with the agenda, but I think what Jerome Gentile was just reading from was the single-page handout with the red
Yeah.
edits.
Which redacted products and.
Okay.
That's what she read the second time.
So,
But she didn't say professional skill.
District Council, I see your hand is raised. Do you want to weigh in?
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. In your first reading of the
Yes.
core value, you used the term reliable, which I think was a good addition, but I don't see it in the written version. So I just want to make it,
Oh.
and I don't know if that was where Commissioner Bush was going or not, but the term reliable.
Reliably delivered.
Reliably, yes, I'm sorry, yes, reliably delivered. I think that would be a welcome addition.
Yeah,
Obviously, that's up to the committee, but
but just to clarify, it's not, that reliably delivered is not on this piece of paper.
Right, that's what,
I understand that.
Yeah, I'm just clarifying. But yeah, thank you. Okay.
well, you learned a lot from those English teachers.
I got my knuckles wrapped a lot.
Anyone else? Okay. I just want to ask you if you think I should get a vote.
I don't think you need to do every one. I think we could talk through
Okay.
and discuss each one, and then at the end, motion to approve core values as discussed.
Okay. All right, so moving on, the second current core value values a stable, dedicated, skilled, and diverse workforce. We have recasted that to generally aspire to value workplace safety and a culture of excellence by providing a safe and healthy workplace that values organizational effectiveness with mutual respect and support for employee development to maintain a stable, dedicated, skilled, and diverse workforce. The little comment that I added to the end is to advise everyone that the current core value number 2, which speaks to a stable, dedicated, skilled, and diverse workforce, is now combined with the original 5th core value, which is valuing a safe and healthy workplace. So we kind of compressed the two of them into one. We had 4 of the original core values, all speaking to our workplace and workforce. So we were trying to right-size it and where it made sense, combine them. So that is an effort to kind of bring them under a single umbrella. Yes.
5 minutes. So in our discussions with our management study, when, where it says development to maintain, what I have suggested in the past is you have to obtain them first. You have to retain them second, and then you can maintain, right? So I think obtaining, retaining, and then maintaining those three words should be part of that.
Can you go through that, Scott, one more time?
Yeah, so, so this says develop to maintain a stable workforce. Well, you gotta get them first, right? So you have to obtain staff, you have to have a way of obtaining staff. It's more challenging today than it ever has been, in terms of getting young people. I mean, the engineering students, curriculum is dropping across the country. Kids are going into AI, they're going into accounting more so than engineering. So we're having struggles with skilled craft workers. So the first thing you have to do, and the biggest challenge we have in the industry, in the trades for drinking water and wastewater, is to actually to get someone, right? To obtain them first. And once you obtain them, you got to keep them, because what we've been doing in the industry since COVID is robbing Peter to pay Paul. We're stealing people from other municipalities or they're stealing people from us because the young people are not going into the industry. They're not going into the trades. And so retaining them is really important. And so what does that mean? You got to provide the opportunities, you got to provide succession planning, you got to provide training as part of that, and then maintaining, right? So it's really developing is you're assuming you've already got the staff. You've got to be able to retain and obtain the staff first.
And Madam Chair, if I could.
Yes.
I'd just like to, thank you, Madam Chair, Commissioner Mandyke here. I'd just like to respond to Scott's comments about that. I think that's covered down in community partnerships, where we work on the viable local workforce and trying to create that. So I think that's kind of already addressed down below, where we're trying to increase our capacity to be able to hire skilled workforces by engaging in our community partnerships with others down below. So I guess I'm okay either way, but I think we address that down in community partnerships.
And
If I may, and that's fine, Commissioner. I think that goal is to build capacity within the community for subcontractors, contractors working for the MDC, not for actual MDC workforce. Either way, I'm okay with it, but there's no doubt it's not just about developing your internal workforce. You have to obtain them first. So I agree with you, except I think that was to build capacity within the contracting world. What we've been doing with requiring the 30% requirement of Hartford residents, that kind of program to build capacity. But either way.
Commissioner Bush.
Hi, thank you. So I think Scott's suggestion is just to add two words. In respect, support for employee development. Currently, it says to maintain. He's just talking about adding the word to obtain, maintain, and retain. And also being in the construction industry, the idea of obtaining valuable workers is really even more difficult than maintaining the workers. I think once you have the worker, maintaining them is really not as much of a challenge. And I think obtaining really is probably even more important to include in that because the idea of going out and finding the workers that are going to represent the MDC and all of our core values in a good way, that's actually really the challenge. And then I think adding retain, I think that immediately then speaks to the idea that we would want to treat our workers with an amount of respect, with the benefits that they deserve to keep our workforce strong going into the future. So I think that those are, personally, I think those are excellent words to add. They don't change the nature of that core value. In fact, I think they make it more encompassing of what it is that we're really trying to do. So I think those are, personally, I think those are good words to add.
Commissioner Stuber.
I might suggest another way, with appreciation for Commissioner Bush's comments and for the CEO's comments, I might suggest we're to say to recruit and maintain. Would that be a little bit more succinct and address the
Are
same?
you reading my notes?
That was going to be my suggestion as well. I think because to me, employee development takes place after you've retained the talent. I think adding that recruit and develop. And I do like adding the retention because that is key. Did you have something else, Commissioner Curry?
No.
No. Anyone online? Okay. All right, let's move on to,
Just so I'm clear, for development to recruit, maintain, and retain a stable, dedicated, skilled, and diverse workforce? Is that?
no, I think that supports employee recruitment and development to maintain and retain a stable, dedicated, skilled.
Support for employee recruitment and development? To maintain and retain a stable, dedicated, diverse workforce.
Yeah. Okay, let's move on to the next current core value is valuing sound planning and financial management, which we have recast as public accountability and fiscal responsibility. Just want to make sure I'm including all of the changes on the most recent version. Ensuring financial stability through sound planning and financial management, comma, disciplined decision-making, and an open, fair procurement process. So that new addition to what was circulated in advance of the meeting, and I may invite district council to weigh in on this, but when we reviewed the original edits, a question came up in connection with the 8th row or the penultimate core value, which includes not only a climate of acceptance and inclusion for our workplace, but also the contract service climate. And that felt a little bit out of our control. And we thought what we can control is having an open, fair procurement process. So we moved that concept up to public accountability and fiscal responsibility. Chris, did you want to weigh in?
Well said. That's exactly what we contemplated and what's represented in this new revision. And thank you for putting it so succinctly and accurately.
If I may.
Yes.
Yes. So Commissioner Hoffman will remember this very well. We had a number of years with our audit where the number one comment was lack of financial controls, right? And we've come a long way since 2019. Spent $2 million with CohnReznick to build those financial controls. So I would suggest ensuring financial stability and controls. And I would also suggest a fair procurement process. And I would either add or remove fair and say transparent.
Can you repeat that?
Yes, so ensure financial stability and controls.
Yes.
and then either remove fair or keep fair, but add transparency.
I suggest we add transparent.
Oh, you know what? I think we are missing this.
I think that's the message we tried to get through with use of the term
Yeah.
open.
So I think when you redlined this, your pen went a little too far and you struck public transparency in decisions. I think that should remain. That was in the original draft.
But I was wondering.
Yeah, that wasn't the one I was working off of,
Oh, okay.
and that's okay. Aside from how we get there, the concept that Scott pointed out and now you restated is a good one. So, however you want to put it in there, or wherever you want to put it in, it's advisable. So, either we can go back to the draft prior draft, or we can add transparent to the three qualifiers of procurement process: open, fair, and transparent. Whatever committee's pleasure is.
Okay. Got it. Any other suggestions? No one online? Okay.
Before we, Madam Chairman, before we move on, could we have a reading of what it is we now have on the table for consideration?
Public accountability and fiscal responsibility, ensuring financial stability and controls through sound planning and financial management, disciplined decision-making, and an open, fair, transparent procurement process.
I'll move that. Do it.
All right. So what are we up to? All right. We're on the fourth value, which currently is valuing continual environmental compliance and stewardship of the watershed. That has now been identified as valuing environmental stewardship generally by promoting responsible practices, continual environmental compliance and stewardship of the watershed and other natural resources. So we had talked about the significance and the import going all the way back to our mission and in the charter to make sure we are good stewards of the watershed. But since then, we manage a lot of natural resources. We choose what vehicles to drive. We choose what type of equipment to use. And in all of those decisions, we want to be environmental stewards. And that is kind of the reason for the suggested edits before you. And with that, I invite comments and feedback. Everyone good with this? Anyone on the phone? Okay. The next, I think we can just fast forward through because we've picked up the current value of a safe and healthy workplace in our revisions in the second revised core value. So without further discussion, I'm going to move on to the next one, which currently values a program of continually improving our performance. We have expanded that, renamed this leadership. We are valuing leadership and continuous improvement, exploring innovation, regional solutions, and leading industry policies that align with our vision to drive progress in the communities we serve. So that talks more than a finite specific program for continuous improvement. It kind of embraces the way we're going to be exploring innovations and ways to regionalize in things that in ways that are scalable and can bring efficiencies to all the communities that we serve. And with that, invite feedback. No feedback? No comments online? Okay. The next current value is valuing open communications and transparency with our member towns and stakeholders. We recast this as integrity. We talked a lot about transparency up above when we're talking about how we make our decisions, and integrity kind of goes beyond that. We value integrity, and we'll be making decisions. Let me make sure there were no changes to this. We will be making decisions based on ethical principles and offering open, honest, accessible communications and transparency with our member towns and all stakeholders to earn public trust. I think it's worth stating that's the end goal. By making decisions with integrity, we will be earning public trust. With that, I invite people to weigh in with additional comments, critiques. Anything? We're good? Okay. The next is currently crafted as valuing a workplace and contract service climate of acceptance and inclusion that values and promotes cultural awareness, tolerance, and respect. That has been recast now at taking the important phrase in the preamble of the current to value climate of acceptance and inclusion. And the way we'll do that is maintaining a workplace. We have deleted the contract services environment. So it will read, maintaining a workplace that values and promotes cultural awareness, tolerance, and respect throughout the community it serves. Any comments?
Madam Chair?
Yes.
Madam Chair?
Yes.
Chris Stone, District Council. I want to pick up on Judy's comment during the public portion. I think her suggestion to change the word tolerance to acceptance is a good one, and I would urge the committee to consider that.
Any comments? I had the same note for this very point. People okay with that? You have that?
Yep.
All right, let's bring it home. The last current value values active participation in programs designed to develop a skilled and economically viable local workforce capable of fulfilling MDC's strategic goals. We've recast this as a community, we value community partnership. And we certainly are very engaged with workforce development, but I think we're selling ourselves short in what we are delivering today and what we will continue to value in the future. I think about all the work that the communications team does to educate our customers, our member towns, our communities on how to conserve water when in times of drought, how not to put fog down the drain and what impact that will have, how to not throw your batteries and other hazardous waste materials in with your municipal trash. So I think what we've done is we've recrafted this to add actively engaging in programs, in community programs that promote environmental values and public health, and programs, and promoting a skilled, viable local workforce capable of fulfilling the MDC's strategic goals. So that last phrase marries up with what the current goal is, and the lead-in adds what we're doing for communications and education of the public about that enhance the community's environmental values and public health. And with that, I invite people to weigh in. You have those? Yes.
Just a question. What do you mean by economically viable?
That we didn't know what that meant, Chris and I, so we took it out.
Now I understand why I don't know what it means.
You'd have to ask the drafter of the current core values. I did not, it was not readily understood, certainly by me.
Chris, enlighten us.
No, I think Chris is as mystified as I was. Were you not?
Yeah, Chris cannot enlighten you on that one anyway.
Commissioner.
Yeah, shouldn't that be community partnerships as opposed to community partnerships? Sure.
Either works, because we do value community partnerships.
The act of.
Yeah.
But multiple because we have multiple interests. Yeah.
Anyone else online? Yes, Commissioner.
I just punched up economically viable, and I'm not sure that it belongs in this statement. It says a term used to describe a project that provides a positive net economic contribution to society.
So the way we rephrased it now says programs promoting a skilled, viable local workforce capable of fulfilling our strategic goals. We removed the economically. We
Okay.
kept viable.
Thank you.
Okay. So at this point, can I,
Commissioner Lester,
yes,
just,
Commissioner.
one thing I wanted to ask you about, in the community partnership, it reads actively engaging in community programs that promote environmental values and public health and programs. Seem like you could say in community programs that promote environmental values, comma, public health, and programs to develop a skilled and eliminate, I guess, the economically viable. But it seemed like you got too many ands in there, and you might could use a comma.
Yes,
English teacher.
it's the day of the comma. It's the evening of the comma as center stage. So it will read community partnerships, or do you want to read it?
No,
Okay, community
didn't know that one.
partnerships. So I think we took actively out. I missed that. I had originally actively, which is what we said last time, but by engaging in programs designed to promote environmental values, comma, public health, comma, and programs.
Oh, no, you don't need the second comma after public health. You can just say that promote environmental values, comma, public health, and programs to develop. Just one comma.
Okay,
I think Professor Bush would have the other comment
Yeah.
back in.
he left the room. He's not
Oh,
here to
forget it then.
defend
Forget it,
the
forget
Oxford
it,
comma.
Forget it. Forget it. I
Go
can't
one
do
way
it.
or go the other way through the whole
Since
document.
we're at the last one, I'm going to say this because it's fun. The first bullet, we use a period at the end of the sentence, and none of them, the rest of them we don't. So that's it.
Killing me.
I'm sorry. But if you wanna be English teacher, one of them's right.
We will make them consistent, either consistently right or consistently wrong.
Madam Chair, if I
You
could.
you had a 50% shot of getting that right, Mr. Jellison.
And I didn't say which one was right.
Commissioner Mandike.
Yes, thank you. Madam Chair, I would like to make a motion that we move with the adjustments that we've spoken about. I would like to move that we accept as amended the core values and proceed with bringing them to the full board for their vote.
Any second?
Second.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Who said aye?
That was Lester.
Okay.
That was-
Yeah, Commissioner Lester.
And any abstentions?
Uh,
Commissioner Hoffman?
Just raising a question. It doesn't preclude us from presenting it at the board level and continuing to adjust. Is that the case, or what we say today
That's the case. No, that's the case.
is in
The
stone?
board can act, the board acts independently. They can amend it.
Exactly. Okay.
They-
Right.
Just making it clear. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you all. Okay, the next item on the agenda was kind of the next critical step that this committee needs to engage in, and that is to develop a vision statement. So we spent a lot of time talking about the mission, which dates back to the charter and what we're all about and why we exist. And the core values are the behaviors and the things that are going to guide us as we make decisions and promote partnerships and, engage with the community. What we need most of all to guide the development of our new strategic plan is a vision statement. I think that I have not been able to find an earlier version of a vision statement ever. So this is like the first opportunity we have to collectively develop a forward-looking, aspirational declaration of where we want the district to be in the future. Think about it as answering, where do we want to be in 5 years? Because the strategic plan is going to be a 5-year plan. And unlike the mission statement, which is primarily developed for an external audience, a vision statement is not only an external statement of where we want to be, what our aspirations are, but it also helps guide our CEO and the entire organization to align resources to things that are embedded in the strategic plan. That's where our time and energy and focus should be, rather than going down rabbit holes that come up periodically over time. So it's a very, very important document. It's also one that was readily available online from a lot of websites that I just looked up similar organizations and cut and pasted their vision statements so people could get a sense. Now, some are not very visionary, and some are like incredibly ambitious. But what I was hoping to use this part of the meeting to do is hear from people what, if any, threads or themes did you find in other water and sewer companies' vision statements that resonated with you, that you thought made sense and really aligned with your personal vision of where you want the MDC to be in 5 years? So this is the open mic part of the meeting. And I don't want to put anyone on the spot. It's going to evolve, but it is something we all need to take very seriously and think long and hard, because we're committing a lot of focus and a lot of energy to develop a plan that aligns with this. And thereafter, align our resources appropriately. So I invite the conversation.
Sacramento's treatment appears very good. Last one you showed.
The last one?
Yeah.
So that would be Eastern Municipal Water District.
Yeah.
Thank you, Commissioner Patel.
We have to
Commissioner-
think ourselves as a model agency. We have to have that confidence and pride, and then rest is
Thank you. Commissioner Mandike.
Yes, thanks, Madam Chair. I think the Northeast Ohio one was I am very supportive of that, be the environmental leader in enhancing quality of life in the region and protecting its water resources. I found that one very telling for MDC.
One of the things, if I may,
Commissioner Hopkins.
Madam Chair, yes. As I was thinking about this before I got here today, I was imagining, and I had forgotten that we had specifically said we want to repeat this in 5 years or look at it again, 5 years. So that 5 years in this industry is like tomorrow. It's not really that far off. And are we simply thinking or getting ourselves to think in little chunks? And it's not that it's a simple task, but little chunks as opposed to, well, what about 50 years from now? What are we imagining that MDC looks like? Not that we necessarily can paint that picture accurately, but we should have some notion of how far out this is going to go. I mean, the water's going to be there. It's going to be there to some level. So I just wonder about how we're envisioning what it is we're thinking we could accomplish. I think we can accomplish more than 5 years. That's what basically I'm posing.
5 minutes.
Yes.
Oh, please.
Yeah, so I like Montville's, but simple is better. But the one thing I would suggest that we include, whatever statement is decided, this board has chosen, and we talk about this all the time. The MDC is the only, except for recently, is the only utility in New England that has spent $2 billion. It's the only region in Connecticut that has spent more than $50 million. So this board has chosen to invest, and all of those investments change things. It changes what we talked about in the management study about, we always talk about how you can't chase the water main breaks, you can't chase the sewer breaks, you have to put in new infrastructure. So the master plan of the water model, this board has chosen to invest in, we were really good, the MDC operational crews, we had a lot of them back in the day, and we became really good at fixing stuff because in 2003, the capital investment was about $5 million a year. We're spending $5 million a year. Now we're spending 200. So the board has chosen, the worst thing this board could ever do is not spend $200 million a year, not invest in that infrastructure that is falling apart every day. So if we could add somewhere into that you have to continue to financially invest no matter what expense it is, because as we said, we talked about this before, we were offered to do $400 million worth of work in the 1980s, and we chose not to, and now it's $4 billion. So we don't want to go backwards. We always want to invest the money, whatever it takes, to not only provide quality But, looking the forest through the trees, that you've got to realize that if you don't invest this money today, you will pay a lot more in another generation. So if we can incorporate something like that into the statement, would be great.
Yes.
And I was on the same line as Scott, and I was looking at the second bullet down, Eastern, and while it's very similar to our mission statement that we just approved, I would make a small change and say, deliver value to our diverse customers and the communities we serve by providing safe, reliable, economic, and environmental sustainable water, wastewater, and while being fiscally responsible. Or through fiscal responsibility or something.
Anyone else?
All right, well, let me see.
Okay. So maybe what I will do is come up, as I did for this meeting, come up with some very high level sketched out vision statements, pieces that people can digest, ruminate, decide, vote. That's where I want our focus to be. And this may be something that certainly the entire district board may have, more to say about the 5-year outlook, where we will all feel we've succeeded. So I'll take a crack at that for our next meeting. And I think on every agenda, we're going to have an update on member town meetings. I think, Chairman Curry, you mentioned you were going to be meeting with Bloomfield in July. Did you?
I did meet with Bloomfield's town manager. He's very new to the job. Hasn't got a great deal of yet. He's only been on the job for a couple months at that time, so hasn't really gained a whole lot of experience with MDC. He's concentrating on the town itself, but he was certainly open and willing to discuss the issues, and all of the MDC commissioners representing Bloomfield was there as well, and as well a few other folks. But it was a positive meeting. He has nothing negative to say about MDC at this point because he has no knowledge of us and how we really operate, but he's getting an education with both Commissioner Lester and Commissioner Taylor. So I feel good about that, and I think very soon he'll be able to communicate with us in a way that we can understand each other. I also had an opportunity yesterday to meet with the town manager from Newington. First name is John. I can't remember the last name. And he's fairly new as well. And the commissioners, Commissioner Pupin and Commissioner Payne were there in attendance. And I don't recall where he came from, but he had a lot of experience in dealing with water, wastewater, and he's ready to dive in, and I felt really good about his willing to participate at a level that we would hope. And again, being new, he really had no comments about MDC other than what he's had contact with MDC now for the past few months. He's been very pleased with that open line of communication.
That's great. And any in the queue for the next month or so?
No.
I think you're making incredible connections with all. I think taking the time to meet with the entire commission, delegates, and town leaders is I can only speak for East Hartford. It went really well, and, it gives us a solid foundation when there's a crisis. Like, who people are, who has what role. And I think that is inspiring public confidence. So thank you. Next, we have an opportunity for general public comments. Any members of the public have general comments to share? Anyone online? Hearing none. Do we have any commissioner requests for future agenda items? Commissioner Mandyke.
Yes, Madam Chair, not a future agenda item. I just know that you must have put a ton, and you and staff must have put a ton of work into getting us to this place. And I just want to thank you very much for leading us so far to here. I know we have a long way to go, but I think if we have these core things set, I'm very happy with the progress that we've made, and I appreciate all the time and effort you've put into this. So thank you.
I'm at the beginning of a very long road. I literally do not mind. This is a labor of love. I feel very strongly. Commissioner?
I'm referring to a lot of experiences, world is good experiences now due to a lot of rain. In some towns in India, natural water fell too much and people were driving on, they can drive anywhere. And public blamed that dams released water. So considering our dams, do we have any role where water could become too much, they have to release it and have impact on downstream, including our member towns? How could we address it so that we could not be blamed for something, let's say, federal agency decides to lower the water table level and releases it. Accidentally something.
Yes,
We could put on a future.
absolutely. We have so we're required to, under our FERC dams, which is Goodwin Dam, we're required by the federal government to do our emergency siren response program. So in case, God forbid, a dam fails. So we have an exercise that we do. We just, when did we finish that, Chris? Annual.
Last time was what, June?
In June. But it's a requirement. We meet with all the local fire marshals, all of the people from the community, in our watershed towns, all along the Farmington River, and we basically go through the emergency exercise of, what happens, the communication, emergency action plan of how you communicate to who, and state police, everybody's involved in that. So we're happy to bring that presentation to you as well.
Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Commissioner Curry, I would like to suggest for your consideration adding to the agenda an item that would deal with a referral to the district board, which would then refer it to government committee that would require the strategic plan committee meet to review and possibly revise strategic plan.
Or, Chairman,
Say every 5 years.
Mm-hmm. Did you say government committee on?
Well, I think that's where it would go after it goes to district board.
I believe the chairman would like to, if correct me if I'm wrong, Mr. Chairman, but put that in our bylaws for the roles and responsibilities of strategic planning so that it's spelled out.
Okay. Any other, yes.
Madam
Commissioner
Chair, if I
Hoffman?
can add my 2 cents. Commissioner Curry reminded me when he was talking about discussion with member town, Bloomfield specifically. Were you thinking, Commissioner Curry, of including in your discussions non-member towns. Because I say that for this reason. Because if we're talking about a strategic plan, we may be talking about a strategic plan that ultimately could in fact include some town who is not currently a member. We don't have a closed membership. So we're always open, I think, to other possibilities. So I just wonder if that is also in your mind as well as you think about those discussions.
Through you, Madam Chair.
Yes.
You raise a good point, and it was not in my mind. I stuck on our old mission statement that dealt with district towns, and now we've moved on beyond that to towns we serve. So I'll reach out to towns we serve as well that are not member towns.
Good, thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner.
Yep.
Yes, Commissioner
We
Patel.
have been talking about flood control. Somewhere we should have some strategy to inform people and bring them up to what the possibilities are. So some program, direct, indirect, working with other agencies, let people know that this could be a problem, this how it could be solved, and where we are proceeding, and what small steps we are making. So keeping people informed, for example, whatever is happening in West Hartford, where other towns are doing little efforts, and we want to come. Without public support, we can't come up with any plan, and then they will start complaining. So we have to start some educational program.
Okay.
Not many people understand those issues.
Thank you, Commissioner. Anyone else?
Oh, I'm sorry, just one more thing, Madam Chair. If we're going back and looking for and trying to develop our own proposal for a vision statement, is it possible, or through you, could you ask the members to forward those proposals to you so that you can then share with all of us, so we're not coming to a meeting and looking at a dozen proposals and trying to make a decision right on the spot?
Okay. Yes, I will do that.
Thank you.
All right. Anything else? Last call. Yes, Commissioner Taylor.
I guess this raises a question, and that is, if you take the view that you have maps that set forth floodplains, but that those maps no longer may be valid, given the manner in which pretty heavy storms are occurring, so that, you get it used to be the 100-year storm, 50-year storm. Well, now, these very powerful storms are occurring every, 3 years, 4 years, or whatever else. I mean, look at what happened down in Southbury. But I guess the question for us is that, do we need to take a careful look, particularly within the district, and maybe do a careful examination as to where what the situation is with regard to floodplains? There may be current maps that indicate that either you're living in a floodplain or you're not, and you got to have insurance. But it may be in light of the changed circumstances that those maps may no longer be valid. So I don't know if that's something that we should think about or look at or give thought to. It would seem that we probably are the most logical body to grapple with that issue. But, I'm not quite sure.
Thank you. Commissioner Stuber.
Picking up on what Commissioner Taylor just said, I think that the question of looking at floodplain maps is an interesting one. But to pull out another thing that he mentioned in terms of talking about the 1,000-year storm, 100-year storm, 200-year storm, I find that those kinds of descriptors have come up many times in our conversations in recent years, and I think that it would behoove us to move broadly toward a more objective measurement when we talk about these kinds of rainfall events. I think that those sort of like X year storm was kind of a relative to rainfall patterns that were common back in the 1970s, from what I understand. And so I think that broadly transitioning in the way that we think and plan and measure rainfall events to a more objective metric, like say, inches of rain per hour or something more concrete of that nature, I think would be both more transparent and more just helpful in terms of our, comprehension and planning purposes.
Thank you. Commissioner Bush.
I just want to follow up what Commissioner Stuber just said. I think that's a fantastic idea because what's a 25-year storm? It doesn't mean anything. This storm was X amount of inches per hour. I mean, I think that's a fantastic way to transition into the future. So I appreciate that. That was great. Thanks.
Yeah, I mean, as a kind of aside, I was talking to some of the old timers in Bloomfield, and they were talking about the 55 storm. And they were commenting that if you were around then, and if you looked at the center of town, the flooding was much more extensive than what you would see on the floodplain maps in terms of people who were required to have flood insurance. And it was really quite interesting, talking to them about it because they commented on the fact that, for example, the lumber company, that, it got knocked, it really was severely damaged, and there was lumber literally floating all over the town, just simply because you didn't think that the water would rise to that level and would spread that far. And in a lot of those places now, much like the situation we now have in North Hartford, you've had construction in areas basically that are in floodplains, plain and simple. And people don't think about it, and they don't think about, maybe with the increased rate of rainfall, maybe we need to start suggesting that people think about flood insurance. That's all.
Great.
And a second job.
Yeah.
Okay. If we have no more items to add to future conversations, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
All right, we are adjourned.
Nice.